Hi, I'm Eric Cantrell from Barco's Medialon Show Control Division, and I'm going to show you how to preview an image file selected from a list in a web panel. This can be useful if you want to create an interface for users to browse image files off of a USB drive and then be able to send them to a video server, but first you want to make sure that you're looking at the right file before you send it to the server. So to accomplish this task, what I've done is created a Medialon Manager project file that is using the files management MXM to grab the current directory and list all files that are within that directory. So I've done this in a task that runs when manager's current status changes. So I've created basically a startup task here. So when manager's current status changes, it's going to execute the following things. It's going to set the current directory using that files management device type, and I'm setting it to an images file that's here on my desktop, and then I'm going to get the files list and dump the result into list2.txt, which is here on this user screen on my web panel. Then what we're going to do is use a button on the web panel, because in web panels you have a URL property and you can target a specific URL. In this case, I'm going to be targeting a web server that's also hosted on this same machine. I'm using the built-in Windows IIS web server, and I'm targeting an image called preview.png. Now I'm going to be changing which file is actually named preview.png by just overwriting it. I'm going to use Manager to overwrite that file, but this button is always going to load preview.png. And what I've done here to make sure that it runs or that it loads in the web browser in a new tab is I've wrapped that URL with a JavaScript. So I put JavaScript : window.open, open parentheses, single quote, the URL, single quote, close parentheses, and then the semicolon to end the JavaScript declaration. So in doing that all in the URL, it's giving the instruction to the web browser that's viewing the web panel to open a new window and use this URL in the new tab. So what that looks like when we run the project is I have that startup task auto-populate the list here. So if we go back into, let me just hide this real quick so I can show you. In my images folder here on the desktop, I have several images, and what we're doing in the Manager project now is selecting one of those, and it says preview loading, and it says preview ready. And when I click on that, it's going to open. Oh, but I'm in Manager, so it doesn't work. I have to be in the web browser. So if I select puppy and hit preview loading, I'm going to get my puppy in a new tab. And if I select bunny and then hit the button, I open a new tab and show the bunny. So this is really useful if you want to be able to view all of the files that are on a thumb drive. Instead of referencing that folder on my desktop, you would be referencing the drive letter of your USB stick when you stick one into the system. This allows you to create your preview, and then from any web browser in the network, you would be able to access this preview. How did I do the loading mechanism, the copy over? Okay, that is done when the list is selected. So one of the items in the list is selected. First thing I do is I set the text on the button to preview loading, and then I created a temporary variable called temp file path, which is just taking our current directory from our files management device and adding the selected text from that list. So I'm basically concatenating the directory plus the file. So I have a full path to the file. And then I'm just going to copy, using that files management device, pulling from the source path, so whatever file is located at that path that we just built, and I'm going to put it in the destination path. In this case, this is the C inetpub/www root/preview.png. So this is always going to be preview.png because the button is always referring to preview.png. This inetpub www root is related to the Windows IIS web server that you can configure as part of Windows. So if you want to do admin tools here and go into the IIS, and if this isn't installed on your Windows system, you can do that through the add and remove programs, but you add Windows features and you want to add the Internet Information Services. So if we go into this here, I'll show you. This is where you can go to your site. So we created the site, which is my default site. If I click on that, you can explore, and it opens that up and shows you the address, which is inetpub www root. So you can use that as your copy to location, and that's where we keep rewriting this preview PNG. There's a couple of things you have to bear in mind. The IIS server is trying to manage the amount of disk reads that it's doing, so it caches files as it's serving them. You don't want that to happen because you keep changing what the content of that preview.png file is. So you have to modify your output caching here. So if you go into here, you have to create a rule. You add a rule. And then you edit the feature settings of that rule and you disable the cache. So basically you're creating a rule for anything that is a .png file, and then you edit the feature settings and you disable both caches. So then when you serve out that page, each time a web server asks for preview.png, it reads it off the disk, which is exactly what you want it to do. On the other side, on the browser side, you're going to need to make sure that it's not caching preview.png as well, because if it's caching it, it doesn't matter what the server does, and if it's serving you the right thing, the browser's not even going to ask for the file if it thinks it already knows what that file is. So to combat that, I installed a Chrome plugin called Cache Killer. What that does is it wipes the cache before loading any page. So when I click on any of these, because my manager project isn't running here. Go back into here, load the kitten, load a puppy. Yeah, there we go. Load a frog. There we go. So what it's doing is it's dumping the cache so that preview PNG doesn't have a definition according to the browser. So it forces the browser to pull down that file. So basically we have to manage both caches on the server side and on the client side, or the web browser side. So that's how you would create a preview button in a web panel, so that you can preview your images before you do something like sending it to a video server. If you like this video and you'd like to see more how-tos, let us know in the comments below. You can also follow me on Twitter at Eric J. Cantrell, or join the conversation on Google+ on the Medialon Tech Forum. For Barco, I'm Eric Cantrell. Thanks for watching.